Before we begin this video, I want to give a huge shout out to Julio Coolio, who has put this article together and talk about Power Rangers in general and get some more insight information from Simon Bennett himself. And we're going to talk about this today. So thank you very much for this article. This is fantastic. Go read it. I will link it in the description. This entire article talks about Power Rangers. Why watch Power Rangers Cosmic Fury with Simon Bennett? And obviously this is talking about it. So basically the article talks a little bit more about how Cosmic Fury is, as well as like 10 action packs, and then obviously the lead up to it. Now, some of these questions here, they've asked Simon Bennett questions and stuff, and this is what I kind of want to focus on. And this has sparked a huge debate quite recently about Toku in Power Rangers and how it should always be the thing. Just remember, if you're watching any tokusatsu, you have to watch it serious, nothing else. Just serious. So kind of going into the original origin, it's all new, it's all original, etc, etc. And this obviously talks about how Power Rangers came to fruition, obviously through Sentai being Zyuranger, and then obviously going straight into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We all know the story, we all know this, but one thing here is that there are three factors when it comes to it. One being cultural differences, which is a huge thing. Stuff in Japan is completely different than, say, the US, UK, or anywhere around, I would say, Europe or the rest of the world. It's very, very different. What you might think is normal could be completely different in other countries. There we go. That's one thing. So he says, people within Hasbro found the Sentai-based style of Power Rangers to be too cheesy and corny for modern US sensibilities. This was a genuine desire within Hasbro to make Power Rangers work for a much broader audience, and the general feeling was that the traditional show was too niche. By moving away from the Sentai performance style and look and towards something that was more perceived as more American, it was hoped to give the show a broader appeal. They are looking at other contemporary kids live action content, and quite correctly, in my opinion, saw them being more sophisticated in their visual language. Now, this is kind of true. Like when you look at, say, how Japan does stuff with the way that sometimes like someone will eat a chili and their head will grow big, or suddenly they'll go whoa, and they'll run around because it's so hot. But it's true, when you look at anything like this and the way that something is completely different, American audiences might not accept it, they may not like it, and again just see it as cheesy. When you look at some of the tokusatsu sort of things, I generally do kind of go, it's standard. But again, if I saw it in America or outside of Japan, I'd be like, okay, that doesn't kind of fit in with things. Not saying it's not funny or interesting at times. I just know that this wouldn't work in a audience if you're trying to make this for everyone. If you're going to keep it towards being a like kids model, then yeah, that would work fine. But you do it in like an animation type of style, not what people want from Power Rangers, as the brand has effectively been the exact same for the last 30 odd years. Now, some of this I don't kind of agree with, which is the manufacturing, but I'll explain at the end. From a toy manufacturing perspective, some of the Sentai designs would be difficult to produce, and it felt having limited appeal to US audiences. Remember, the adult collector market is a small part of the overall toy sales, and not the target audience of the show. Hasbro brand wanted creative ownership over the designs, rather than having a go with designs that were adapted from elsewhere. There was a lot of brand and toy input into the Cosmic Fury designs. This wasn't attempting to be like Sentai designs, but to be something quite different that would be easy to manufacture for US kids. The inclusion of the MMPR lightning bolt logo and the suits and props is an example of the brand wanting to apply consistency across the range. Now, let's kind of have a look at it. All the suits and all the toys and stuff is, I think, fine. Like when you look at the Japanese sort of side, they're able to recreate every single toy or every single costume design. In another interview with Simon, he pretty much said the exact same thing again. But when you look at, say, the Cosmic Fury suits, they look bland. And if this is the attempt that Hasbro is going for, then why not actually put a little bit more kind of creative in there? You could have put a bit more armor around the Rangers to make it kind of look cool. The one thing is that with Q Ranger, this was helped designed by Bandai to sell to the American audience. Everybody kind of knows this. And it's kind of weird that Toei would have taken input into these sorts of designs. Now, when you look at them, there's nothing. Like, you could have effectively taken the bottom parts of the suits, these parts, and then stuck them on with the Cosmic Fury helmet. It wouldn't have been a hard thing. You could have taken away the morpher and kept the same thing that you wanted to. But when looking at this, I generally feel like this was a bad choice by Hasbro not to adapt something, which I think would have been pretty easy to do. Now, obviously, having a look at, say, Zato's design here, you know, when you see the sort of thing like the texture eyes, you don't normally see this actually on the costume itself. Why make something so bland that kids are going to be like, oh, I'll skip it, when you have these sorts of suits and other Sentai designs that, you know, people want to do it. Now, I kind of feel that this is a lazy thing for when it comes to Hasbro in general, because, hey, you know, they don't want to put a lot of effort in, and you can see quite clearly from a lot of stuff that's happened from the Lightning collection, from some of the other toys. I mean, look at the morpher from Beast Morphers when they actually got the brand. That morpher was fantastic, but when you look at the Cosmic Fury morpher now, it's bland. It may interact with the TV to make sounds and stuff like that, but it looks boring and not at all very well detailed. Now, if they brought out the actual morpher, which they have the 3D designs for and stuff like that, that would look fantastic and actually be a way to say, we're ending the series here for now. This is our, you know, this is our big huzzah, hurrah for you to take this toy and be like amazing. You know, I can understand if you didn't want to make the, you know, the star thing, whatever they've got on their wrists, you know, their morpher, I can understand that. You know, at least make something great from when it comes to the toys. The ones in the show look absolutely fantastic and they have a lot of detail, which I generally really like, and that should be a thing. But carrying on with the storytelling, while helping to keep the cost of the show down, from a story perspective, the use of Japanese footage was very limiting. Stories and characters had to be contrived around the usable footage. Finding matching locations was always challenging. The end result was rarely seamless. This meant that a typical Power Rangers episode was a bit more of a stylistic mess, made of sometimes ill-fitted jigsaw puzzle pieces. It was wonderful on Cosmic Fury to finally not be a slave to the Sentai footage and be able to tell the stories that we wanted. Now, a lot of people say like, oh, just adapt another Sentai, it's easy, it's easy. No, from a storytelling point of view, it doesn't work out whatsoever. You know, if, say, for example, the Red Ranger has to go on an arc to find something, you know, to get a new power, you have to kind of tell that straight away into Power Rangers. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, the Sentai doesn't hold it back. At times it does. And this is the thing that I've always kind of mentioned. I just kind of feel that now when you see Cosmic Fury, you're going to see something that is completely different. It's not going to be the generic following the Sentai, and the story is actually good. I just kind of wish we saw this way back when and not relying so heavily on the Sentai. This is just a big thing that I think was holding it back for some time. Not the roots, not the tokusatsu, just the storytelling in general. And the fact is that if there is a part where, I don't know, you know, it's shot in Japan, you have to match it clearly, and not everyone is going to have locations that are exactly the same or look similar. I mean, look at the times when the Rangers are fighting on like a highway and you see Japanese signs in the background, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they're not in the same location. You know, we saw this a lot in the Saban era, we saw it in the Neo Saban era. You know, Disney, I think, did a pretty decent job for it. But in general, it's very hard to make those sets. Look at, like, say, Super Mega Force. There's a scene in that where they're in a location and then all of a sudden they turn around and they had to dress the area to look very vaguely like it. So when you look at this sort of thing, it's very hard to kind of tell, hey, let's make this the exact same as what we've seen because right now we have to do it. So I understand what Simon is saying. And I kind of wish that maybe season 2 of Dino Fury were able not to follow the Sentai or anything like that, and we could have had more of a creative season. We did see some of those parts in Dino Fury season 1 and 2, which made it stand out, which was so much better, and they had a bit more control. But Cosmic Fury, they are completely open to doing what they want, and it works so well. Now, I've seen this one here, this statement, the 50-50 one, which has had a few people kind of confused. And when you kind of look at it, it's true that there is a 50-50. Let's read this. This came from me and the writers Beckett, and we've always been able to keen to aspire to inclusivity. I'm delighted we got a Ranger team in Cosmic Fury that is 50-50 male-female. I believe there's a girls audience as well as boys for the show. Hasbro and Netflix, to their credit, supported us in this. And I like that. Now, when you look at it, when people are like, oh, it's not though, you have Izzy, Fern, Amelia, Harvey, Ion, and then Zato, and then again later that we've seen, you have Harvey, Ion, as well as Ollie. So again, it's a 50-50 team, and some people are like, huh? I don't see it. It's there. It's literally right in the face. We've seen it on the trailer. We've seen it in promo shots as well. This is another part where I've seen a lot of people talk in Tokusatsu going like, oh my god, like Toei will keep all their costumes. No, these costumes turn to dust after like a set year. But obviously with the amount of monsters that they're making every single year, what do you do with them? Like what effectively do you do with all these costumes? Because damn, either they take out so many warehouses, because some of these monsters are absolutely huge. These monsters are so big that you're not able to fit them into a warehouse and stuff out over time. You know, it's just really weird. But this is kind of interesting. It says the stories we wanted to tell needed monster armies. We needed cannon fodder. Toei was cleaning out some of their warehouse storage and offered us a whole load of old suits from other seasons. We were happy to accept. I just hope that they kept the monsters at least, or you know, at least offer them up to be bidded for, so maybe people could have these monsters in their own home. I would love to own a complete monster suit. I think that would be kind of cool. But I think in general, like when you're just kind of wanting to get rid of them and go, there you go, because they're either going to be incinerated, which is a shame. Like I generally would love to see more monster suits. I know I've seen a few around, say like Pound Morphicon and that, but yeah. I'm hoping that they kept the suits to some degree, or, you know, at least not just chuck them in a bin. Like, I can imagine walking past the studio one day, walking your dog, going on a walk, and then suddenly you just see a load of monster suits, and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, I'm going to take one. It would have been awesome, to be fair. Now, this is the one thing that I kind of want to talk about. This is the, you know, the next stage of where Power Rangers is completely, and we know right now that Jonathan Entwistle is in charge of making the new one. He's done some really good stuff. If you want to check out how you feel like the theme for Power Rangers is going to be, go check out The End of the Effing World and I'm Not Okay With This. It will kind of give you a grasp, and not the kind of 18 element, but it will kind of give you a grasp of maybe what's happening, or go look at what Jenny's done, which is like, say, Jessica Jones and a few other things like that. You'll see it kind of how I think the show is going to go, which I think is kind of cool. But as we've got the writer's strike as of recording this, which is on the 17th of September, we're currently in a writer's strike, and at the moment nothing's been kind of done to kind of move production for some things if you're in SAG, etc, etc. But this is the one thing here right now that is kind of very interesting, and a lot of rumors that were said back in the day are looking to become true. We'll find out as soon as the new reboot drops. Hasbro's main interest was always in the young adult Jonathan Entwistle series that had been in development since late 2019 or early 2020. This was intended to be a hard reboot, more sophisticated, aimed at an older audience without the dependency on Sentai or established canon. However, development seemed to be going very slowly. I don't think Dino Fury Season 2 or Cosmic Fury would have happened if it had been ready. These were stopgap seasons intended to keep the show ticking over and supporting toy sales in the meantime. While the development resumes on the Entwistle project after the Hollywood strikes finished, I wouldn't expect to see it going into production until late 2024 at the earliest, so on air sometimes in 2025. Now, I've done a video on this, and I feel like if the strikes are going to carry on for such a long time, maybe till, say, the end of this year, that maybe the writing, maybe some of the other stuff going on wouldn't happen until, like, say, sometime in 2025 or maybe early 2026, because of the amount of sheer time that it takes to kind of put this together, from the writing, from getting the costumes made, to how, you know, to shooting, to the editing, to also the visual effects, and then actually get it on air. So I kind of see it maybe late 2025 to early 2026. It's very interesting to read this line here. This was intended to be a hard reboot, more sophisticated, aimed at the older audience, without any dependency on Sentai and established canon. So, yet again, when we heard about the split happening, you know, obviously this is maybe another indication that it's going to happen. And obviously, if it's not going to be tied to the canon of the show, then obviously it's not going to affect that main timeline. But this also means, you know, are we still going to have Zords? Are we going to have it around? You know, you still have the tokusatsu element, but now we're not getting any Sentai adaptations or any Sentai parts in it. That's really interesting to me, and it kind of opens up. And I'm so glad that this article is here, that we can actually read and see it. Kind of wrapping up this video, I kind of really wanted to talk about a few more elements that Simon has said, and it's kind of really interesting. A lot of people are saying like, yeah, there's going to be a Power Ranger series in 2024, like, you know, they're just kind of waiting, blah, blah, blah. This is what Simon had to say. Normally, the writing team and I would go straight into developing the next season after the previous one is written. However, we had a pretty good idea that Cosmic Fury would be the last iteration of the kids show while we were shooting. It's for the reason that we brought the story to Cosmic Fury to an end rather than finishing on a cliffhanger. And I'm so glad it wasn't a cliffhanger, because that would have pissed a lot of people off. So I'm glad that the story was kind of brought to an end. He also adds, it certainly meant that we were allowed to break a lot of rules and tell Power Rangers story in refreshing new ways, which was rewarding, which I'm glad. Like, when you see it, it's going to be fantastic. So I wanted to kind of end it here and kind of talk a little bit about the quantum continuum. A lot of fans are thinking that this is, you know, Hasbro needs to make this, but it's very interesting to hear from Simon, who has obviously working alongside E1 and Hasbro. And it says, Once and Always came about in early 2022, after David pitched his own idea from an MMPR reunion series to Hasbro's execs, Quantum Continuum. They couldn't commit to this various political, budgetary, and legal reasons, but did embrace the idea for a one-off special for the 30th anniversary, hence Once and Always. Hearing this from Simon kind of gives us a bit more closure from when people are going to say, Hasbro needs to make this, and it won't, because obviously for what Simon said here. So I just want to kind of add that in. Even though Quantum Continuum is a good project, we kind of get a reason why it won't be made, etc, etc. So yeah, there are all my kind of thoughts on this video. You could break a lot more of this down into multiple videos and kind of talk more about it, but I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on this kind of extra long video and stuff like that. But yeah, I am gonna leave it there. I'm gonna link this article down in the description and also pin it as a top comment, so if you want to go and read this, you can do. I highly recommend it. There's a lot more in this that they talk about. So yeah, please go check it out. And thank you very much to Julio to actually taking the time to put this, to actually ask questions to Simon. It's been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, what are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you want to help out the channel, hit like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Why not check out the Patreon as well as the channel memberships? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat, Kira Stanada, Micah Baldwin. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとう。チャンネル登録、高評価お願い。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができるよ。